Yo, we're back again. Daniel Tiluk in here on Talking Tactics Daily. Remember to follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts with me, Half Hope, and Carl Anka. We'll be coming to you sometime later in the week to talk about the Classico and everything else. But for purposes of YouTube, we're going to try to get this out in record time. Let's try. So, Barcelona beat Real Madrid 3-2 in the Super Cup final in Saudi Arabia. Crazy game. Crazy game. The first half was trending 0-0 for quite a while. And then Raphinha had a chance that he probably should have scored, and then he didn't. I'm very to say Raphinha. I guess I just did. But, Raphinha. I like the way that the Brazilians say it. There's no R. It's like Raphinha. Anyway, he had a chance pretty early that he could have scored, or at least earlier than the goal that he did score. And then he misses, but game keeps going. I think it was Pedri in midfield that collects the ball, finds somebody in midfield, and they find Raphinha. Maybe it's Lewandowski. And Raphinha gets 1-0. And, we've seen kind of similar stories in these games before where Barcelona score, somebody scores first, but there's always a response from whoever it is. And then Vini goes on an insane solo goal, dribbles past two defenders. Kunde had a nightmare of a game all game. Vini gets into the box, dribbles around. I think it might have been Kubarsi, and then or Martin, one of the two. He dribbles around one of the center backs, let's say, and finds Juan Garcia's far post. Brilliant solo goal, breaks his streak of not scoring in 16 straight games or whatever the number was. And you're like 1-1, cool. Immediately after, this is an added time of the first half. Lewandowski scores to make it 2-1. And then in the added time for the goals that had transpired, Gonzalo Garcia, who's hopefully showing himself to be useful to Xabi Alonso, scores 2-2. So halftime, it goes from being 0-0 in 35, 36, 37 minutes to then 2-2, like that. 3 goals in added time. It was very crazy. Second half starts, and it's not as intense as the first half. I could imagine in the locker room, in the dressing rooms, the coaches are like, all right, like that was a bit intense there for the last piece of the first half. So let's have a bit more control. That's the word I'm looking for. Let's have a bit more control. And I think that transpired for a large piece of the second half, where it wasn't as frenetic, even though it was open and there were chances. It never was going to be that again, that last 5 minutes of the first half. Raphinha again comes up with a goal somehow. Like, of course, he didn't mean to score that. It deflects off Asensio and wrong foots Courtois. It's one of those goals when you're watching on TV where it's just like, what happened? Did it hit his other foot? Like, did he strike his planting foot? Did it take a deflection? It just looked weird. But he celebrated as if, it was a a bicycle kick in the World Cup final. Like, he celebrated like it meant a lot to him. So then what happened next? Basically nothing. Mbappe, who was in the kind of will he won't he come on and play, he did come on, but he didn't affect the game at all. I can't think of any consequential moments that he had until the very end. Between Mbappe and that consequential moment, actually no, I guess he did 2 things, but we'll get to them. Vini is taken off, despite having, I think, his best game in months for Real Madrid. Xabi Alonso said in the post-match press conference that Vini asked to be taken off because he was suffering from cramp. Maybe not. I hope that's the case, and that Vini did ask to come off because it would alleviate a lot of the conjecture, speculation, narrative that's going on between those two in particular. Obviously, the last Classico, Vini came off also having a pretty good game, and he was not happy about it. And it caused a whole thing for weeks about, is Vini leaving? Does Xabi Alonso have the respect of the dressing room? All of those different types of things started to come into play. If there was an injury substitution that was not the cause of Vini coming out, fine. Valverde also came off, who probably had an injury. So you lose two of your better moments players, I would say. Valverde, as he showed in the derby a few days ago, he can hit a ball crazy from anywhere. And Vini was he had Koundé on toast. There are some games where Koundé gets the better of Vini, but when Vini gets the better of Koundé, he just makes him look like a fool out there. At the same time, so Vini comes off, Mbappe is on, and Mbappe, again, he's not doing anything of consequence until he gets Frankie de Jong sent off. Again, and maybe we discussed this on a pod before where somebody got sent off. I'm feeling that one like as an orange. If the referee gives it as a yellow, I don't think it's overturned to red. Or it's, actually, yellow cards aren't reviewable, are they? I don't think that instance would have caused the referee to go to the monitor and look at it again. I don't know if VAR would have asked him to do that. But then, once the referee sees red, and he gave it instantly, he didn't give himself a lot of time to think. The tackle was pretty high, but it wasn't forceful in that way. I mean, Mbappe made the most of it, as any attacker worth their salt or player worth their salt should do. I mean, give the referee a decision to make. And the referee instantly went to his pocket, gave the red card. And once it's a red card, I don't think any VAR person is going to overturn it just based on how high de Jong's foot was. But do we want that to be a red card in the game? It's tough. Like, again, if there was an orange card, perfect. Now, I haven't worked out what the consequence for an orange card is. Maybe you have to change yellows to, like, if you get 3 yellow cards, you get sent off, 2 orange cards, 1 red card. I don't know how it works. The combination of 1 yellow card and an orange card sends you off. I don't know. But that's one of those ones that's in between. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but you can't argue the fact that if a referee interprets it that way, that's what it is. In any event, it wasn't looking like Real Madrid had a chance. So the reason why it's a little bit important to discuss that one somewhat in depth is without that card, the 2 chances that transpire at the end of the game probably don't happen. So the first one was a well-worked passage of play that ends up with somebody, I forget who it was, because it couldn't have been Carreras, even though it was on the left. Maybe it was Arda Güler who had made a run, and he puts a ball from the left-hand side into the Barcelona's 18-yard box. It somehow finds Tchouaméni, who wisely kind of dummies it. He doesn't touch the ball because he knows that there's at least 3 players behind him. It ends up being Carreras, who in an ideal world, Carreras is the one who sends that cross in, and Arda Güler is the one who, on his left foot, is now able to pick a place on the goal. Carreras went for placement instead of power. There's a lot of people who are complaining, you had to just smash that one. How come you just didn't put your laces through it? It was closer. He shot closer than the penalty spot. So this is maybe 10 yards, maybe even closer than that. If he goes for power, maybe there's not enough room for the ball to get over the bar. Sorry. So, but I'm not going to be angry at a defender who scored how many goals this season? Maybe 2 max, 3 at most. You can't have 2 max, 3 at most. 3 max. Going for placement instead of power. Like, I'm not annoyed at what he tried to do. It's just, he didn't pick the right place. If you're going to go for placement, then you need to be precise. If you're going for just power, just kick it anywhere. It's like a shotgun approach. It's powerful. Wherever it hits you, you're probably dead. That's what people want, but I don't know how realistic that is in the moment to ask a defender in the 90 whatever minute to have the presence of mind to just blast that to the left where Garcia will never be able to get it. I feel like that's harsh. Then there was a corner, very last instance. There was some time wasting that Barcelona was going through. The red card to get Frankie de Jong off happened in like the 89th, 90 minute. So the referee added time. Corner, it finds Mbappe, and this is the other consequential thing that he did. The ball found Mbappe on the far post, and he crosses it in, and Asensio has a chance from basically point blank range and into the hands of Juan Garcia again. So, that's the other thing about the Carrera shot is the ease with which Garcia collected the ball was just like, from a Real Madrid perspective, it was like you didn't even make it work. Like he just leaned over, bent over, and picked the ball up. It didn't even look like anything. So Barcelona escape with their man less, and they end up winning the Supercopa de España, the Spanish Super Cup for those of us who are Spanishly challenged. Barcelona with Hansi Flick have won 5 out of 6 against Real Madrid, which is a very impressive record. At least 2 of those, I think, if they've played 6 times, 3 of those are in the league, right? The 2 against Ancelotti, 1 against Xabi Alonso, which they lost. They've played back-to-back Copa. They played back-to-back Supercopa finals, so that makes 3. Maybe they played in the Copa del Rey final, and I'm just forgetting it. They definitely did, didn't they? Where I think Real Madrid go up 2-0 and then end up losing the game. So in any event, all the games are running together in my mind for some reason. I can't even use tiredness or the clock as an excuse. It's just bad. I'm one of the worst. Certainly on our podcast, Half Hope and Carl can just remember games from like 5 years ago. For me, they all kind of run together. Either I watch too much or I'm not watching with enough intent. And I haven't decided. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. In any event, Real Madrid have been very poor, let's say, against Real Madrid. Real Madrid have been poor against Real Madrid. Jesus, I'm going crazy. Barcelona have been very good against Real Madrid in the Hansi Flick era. And, the trophy cabinet is there to show. Did I have anything else written down? A word on Raphinha, man. Raphinha. What a player. And under Xavi, this was unfathomable. I hit that right. Unfathomable that Raphinha would be this important to Real Madrid. Why do I keep calling them Real Madrid? They're on the screen, Daniel. That Raphinha would be this important to Barcelona. It's when he doesn't play, they're a different team. And when he plays, they're a different team. There's just a night and day difference between Barca with him and without him. If you're a Brazil fan, you kind of hope that translates to the national team because there's a World Cup coming. But Barcelona, you would think, even though Yamal is the more talented player offensively, what Raphinha is able to do for Barcelona in their pressing and their defensive phases that eases the pressure on Hansi Flick's tactics, his high line, is so important to what they're up to. Because if you don't have pressure on the ball, you can't play a line that high without being slaughtered. And even in the best of instances, even when you do have Yamal and Raphinha and whoever else is up there pressing, Ferran Torres, or in some instances this season it's been Marcus Rashford, it's still a dangerous tactic. But if you win the ball high up, then you're going to obviously have more and easier, better scoring chances. So you can make it make sense, kind of. But without Raphinha, and with the kind of old bones of what's left of Robert Lewandowski, it's a seriously insane tactic to employ. But when you have him in the team, Barca looks so good. And he's able to provide defense, but then offensive quality on top of it, which is, I mean, he scored two goals. One of them was really good. Like the first one was good. The second one was fortuitous, but you make your own luck in those instances, don't you? So I'm very impressed with Raphinha, and I hope that he can carry his Barcelona form with him to the national team, as I said, because our friend Vinicius, Vini Jr., bro, the goal that he scored is something that you can picture in your mind's eye him doing every game. He's that talented. He's that good with the ball at his feet. His finishing has vastly improved since when he was wearing number 20 when he first showed up. He can do that. Obviously, you don't. It's very unlikely for him to do a goal like that or to score a goal like that every game. But asking questions of the defender that's against him or the defenders that are attempting to defend him, he can do that. Like he can make your right back and your right center back question whether or not they want to keep playing football. Like he's that talented. Koundé, I'm sure when Vini came off was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, thank you. Maybe he did his Sunday prayers this morning. But Vini was asking so many questions of Barcelona, and he was the main Madrid player who was pressing, just attempting to do things. In the defensive phase, obviously he's walking a lot, but he's trying to conserve energy for those long 50, 60-meter sprints that he has to do, sometimes with the ball at his feet. There were a couple of times where he could have put through his left back or Rodrigo, who was kind of making that kind of banana-shaped run. He could have done that a little bit more. But I think he was feeling himself, rightly so. And I wonder what his future holds, because you can't be coming off in these games. Now, if there was an injury, because I just read the report. So if he was feeling an injury and you don't want to risk a hamstring or a calf strain, or, you're feeling something in the groin, then yeah, you come off. But cramp, you just go down, somebody comes, stretches your legs, you drink some fluids, and then you're back out there. Like it didn't need to be a substitution. And even if you want to come off, Vini, if I'm Xabi Alonso, bro, no, you're not coming off. I want Rodrigo, Mbappe, and good Vini out there when I need a goal. We're down 3-2. Obviously, if Vini stays on the pitch, maybe the game doesn't go as it goes, and you don't get those two chances at the end of the game, because that's the nature of football is very fluid. One decision invariably affects all subsequent decisions. That goes for things as innocuous as corners or throw-ins or anything, really. Football is like jazz in that way. You play one note and all the other notes are subject to be changed. So perhaps you don't get the Carreras chance, you don't get the Asensio chance if Vini's on the pitch. At the same time, there could have been better opportunities with him on the pitch as opposed to with him off the pitch. So he didn't seem happy, but I wonder if that was more he's just upset about the situation internally. Like, damn, why do I got to get injured now? Why do I have to feel cramped now? But if it were me, like, hey, you sit on the floor. We'll bring the trainers out. We'll stretch you out. We'll do the little magic spray. Drink some water or whatever they give players these days to help with their fluids. And you're back out there for the last, 12, 15 minutes? If you include the added time. So, yeah, Vini's future is looking grim at Real Madrid. The one thing that might save him is that he's being paid so much money that there's not an obvious club that you can send him to that would want him. Could you see Vini at Man City? Probably not. Could you see Vini at PSG? Maybe. Could you see Vini? Vini would never go to Bayern Munich. I don't think. I don't think they would break their pay structure in order to sign someone that's on like 400, 500,000 a week. Chelsea would never be interested because he's too good. Manchester United are. I don't think they're in a financial place nor a sporting place to where he's an obvious candidate for their team. So, and I don't think Serie A, none of the Serie A clubs have enough money. So really what we've settled on there is maybe Man City, maybe, and PSG. But if they're not in for him, I don't think PSG would want to add Vini into the group that they have with Dembele, Doué, Kavisha. Like there's no point to kind of sprinkle him in there because you're adding a temperamental element into something that seems relatively stable. The most temperamental piece there is Luis Enrique, who's on his way out. So there's no obvious place for him to go. So maybe, I don't know, he has a good World Cup and somebody is willing to take a risk on him. In any event, it'll be interesting to see what the summer holds. This is the La Liga table. I was just curious, so maybe you were too. There's a 4-point gap between the two teams. Obviously, there's another Clasico to come, but, you know, they're dropping points a little bit more regularly than in usual years, that being Madrid. So it looks like Barca's probably going to win the league. It looks like Barca's going to win the league. Am I biased against Barcelona? Slightly. 2009 still hurts. But that's the crazy thing about football, man. Like, as good as 2012 was and how beautiful that game ended, the pain of 2009 is still more powerful than the pleasure of 2012. So I am biased against Madrid, I keep calling them Madrid, against Barcelona. So I should be upfront with that. But I know a good team when I see one, and this is a good team, and I do enjoy watching them. I'm not as hate watching as I used to be, that's a win for me and my kind of pettiness. But, you know, when they play Madrid, I kind of hope Madrid win. I'll be honest. But no, they were certainly the better team. Let's get through these other slides. Scott McTominay, the question I have that I need to ask either Carl or Have Hope in the actual podcast is, I think it's settled that Scott McTominay is the best midfielder in Italy at the moment. Is he the best player in Serie A? Pregnant pause for you to think of some candidates. Obviously, Lautaro Martinez. There's a British pronunciation of Martinez that goes Martinez. And sometimes I get caught between Lautaro Martinez or Lautaro Martinez, but I definitely know that the correct Spanish pronunciation, certainly with those of us with English accents, is Martinez. In any event, it's either Lautaro, and is there any other obvious option in that league? I don't think Roma have a player. Pulisic has had a decent season, but no. I don't want to include goalkeepers. Maignan is obviously very talented. The most talented player in that league is Rafael Leao, but I wouldn't consider him the best player. Inter Bastoni, you could make an argument perhaps. Does Juve have a player that's better than Scott McTominay? Or performing better? I don't think they do. So that's a very interesting place for Scott McTominay to be. Top two, not two. Who'd have thought that? Like 4 years ago. Shout out, Antonio Conte blew his top, by the way, against Inter Milan. Got a red card sent off. Napoli held Inter, but it's looking again like Inter probably favorites to win the league. But this is a league where Serie A, you can't put points in anyone's pocket. You just can't do it because they'll all beat each other up And by the end of, let's say, April, there'll probably still be 3 teams alive: Inter, Milan, and Napoli. So it was good just for Napoli not to get beat. The goals McTominay scored, by the way, because he scored 2. The game with Inter finished 2-2. McTominay's first goal, he almost starts the play. He finds a very incisive forward pass to Rasmus Højlund, I believe. And then the ball finds its way out to the left. And McTominay makes this run from his own half to the near post of the goal and just gets a beautiful touch on and gets it past Jan Sommer. And then the equalizing goal at the very end was another kind of improvised finish where he didn't have much time to think about it. And he seems very good at that. Just, I need to kick this in the goal or near the goal or just put it on target somehow. And he can contort and maneuver his body in ways that, you know, the bicycle kick that he scored for Scotland and all of that. So he kind of did another improvisational finish to get 2-2. And it's just like, who saw this? Did anyone see this? Certainly Antonio Conte saw it, but who else? Because, you know, we question Conte's taste in players, especially if you're anyone who paid attention to his Chelsea years or his Italy selections, or he has an odd taste. But sometimes, you know, he messes around and finds players. So McTominay is one of his gems, and I can't take that from him for sure. But if I'm guessing who's winning the league, I'm still going with Inter. But how confident am I in that pick? Like 10% confidence, 90% unsureness. Vincent Kompany. I just want to mention, and we'll take a peek at the table before we get to like a few FA Cup stragglers at the very end of this. You beat someone 8-1, you get a mention in the Daily Show. Wolfsburg, of all teams, man. Wolfsburg used to be good. Obviously, you remember their teams with Kevin De Bruyne and those mid-2012 team, mid-2010 teams, early 2000s teams, or late 2000s, early 2010s teams. I remember those quite well. Julian Draxler was at Wolfsburg, wasn't he? Bas Dost, those teams. That was back when I was writing for Bleacher Report, and they would make me kind of watch Bundesliga and write about, hey, where do you think Bas Dost should go? What's going to happen with Kevin De Bruyne? The future of... No, Draxler was Schalke, wasn't he? Hold on. Julian Draxler, blast from the past. I think he was at Schalke, and then maybe later moved to Wolfsburg. Did he ever play for Wolfsburg? Here's a live fact check. He did. Okay, yeah. He went from Schalke to Wolfsburg, then from Wolfsburg to PSG. But the Schalke one is where I most remember him. He's with Al Ahly at the moment in Qatar. He was meant to be one of those ones that just never panned out. He went to PSG at the wrong time. Like if he goes to if his birth year aligned with playing with this PSG and this midfield, maybe he would find a more useful role than what he did when he went there. But he went there at the wrong time for sure. But no, Kompany is coaching crazy. He's having an amazing run at Bayern Munich. Something that not a lot of people would have guessed after his getting Burnley relegated. How do you get Burnley relegated and then you get to manage Bayern Munich? He must be one of the best interviewers of all time. This is one of the thoughts that we've had on the podcast for a while, that he must be amazing in the boardrooms, speaking perfect German with perfect diction, just like, no. Like, trust me, Burnley, we had our set of problems. But in this team, when you give me Harry Kane and Michael Olise and who else would have been there at the time? Serge Gnabry and Coman might have been there, and you give me Kimmich and the rest, I'm going to be able to work my... No, you wouldn't say it like that. This squad has a very high potential that I think I am uniquely qualified to extract, and we can hit objectives. We can keep winning the Bundesliga, and certainly we have a team that is capable of winning the Champions League. And you got Uli Hoeneß in there like, oh, he's very, he speaks well. You know, they're overly impressed with black people who have like, I don't know, an above average vocabulary. Like, oh my goodness, he uses correct grammar. He speaks so well. He's so articulate. It's like Kompany's just like, bro, I'm speaking normal. Like, there's nothing crazy going on. But they're like overly impressed with like, oh my goodness, he put 3 sentences together without stuttering. We got to give it to him, especially after everybody else said no. But no, he's justifying it. He's justifying it. To be fair, I think Rosenior is kind of he'll have that same fate. It's just like, oh my goodness, he speaks so well. As opposed to what? In any event, Bayern Munich are going to win the Bundesliga. I just took this screen grab for the sake of taking the screen grab, just so you could see how devolved the Bundesliga is. So you're welcome. Bayern are up by 11 points after 16 games. There's no hope. Shout out to my guy Half Hope. Let's talk FA Cup. Arsenal scored 4 goals, 3 of them from corner kicks. Premier League teams struggle to defend Arsenal set pieces. Championship, League 2, League 1, like whoever you're playing in an FA Cup, Lord have mercy on you, because they're monsters. Even when Rice and Saka are not taking the penalties, they're not taking the corners. They feel like penalties, don't they? It's funny. Arsenal missed a penalty but scored on 3 corner kicks. No, but when Rice and Saka aren't taking the corner kicks, they still find quality, whether with Eze, Madueke, whoever. So it's a very scary proposition for whoever's playing Arsenal at the moment. Like, how do you defend them? And then it's not. You would think Gabriel's there. You would think, okay, it'll be Gabriel, it'll be Saliba, it'll be Timber, Calafiori, one of those. No, it's Martinelli, Gabriel Martinelli, who's popping up with goals from corners. It's just like, what do we do with these people? And lastly, and I think it was worth mentioning, Arsenal, just briefly. Beat Portsmouth. Like, congrats. Manchester United lose with their caretaker manager, Darren Fletcher. Maybe this kind of puts out that Darren Fletcher to the end of the season idea. I don't think anybody's really going to be going with that. So it's probably going to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or if the former Manchester United players have their way, Michael Carrick, the ones who are in the kind of pundit class, like the Gary Nevilles and Wayne Rooney's, they seem kind of intent. That's me saying something that I haven't researched. It seems whenever I go on Twitter that those types of people, not them specifically, but that class of people, are very into having Michael Carrick have a chance after his last interim caretaker spell. So yeah, losing to Brighton, I don't think there's any shame in losing to Brighton. I mean, it's not great, obviously. And then when Danny Welbeck comes back and dunks on you, scored an amazing goal. Very, very good goal. By the way, and we'll end on this. So Harry Kane is going to start for England at the World Cup. That's pretty obvious. If England are taking 3 strikers or 3 center forwards, maybe they don't. Maybe they just take 2 recognized, in which case you probably take Kane and then Ollie Watkins. If it's not Ollie Watkins, why isn't it Danny Welbeck? Another pregnant pause. I think he might be the best performing English striker that's in England at the moment. Maybe Ollie Watkins has scored enough goals in the very recent past for people to forget about, his struggle period. But Welbeck has been playing really, really well this season for Brighton. So I'm like, why not Danny Welbeck at the World Cup? It's like Danny Welbeck is a fine wine at this point. He hasn't aged as milk. He had his Manchester United breakout where he was decent but not amazing. He goes to Arsenal again. He was decent but not amazing. But he's never been just straight ass. And now at Brighton, where he's a bit older, more savvy, he hasn't lost his ability to strike the ball, except in the first half where he should have scored one. It's like, yeah, Danny Welbeck might be England's third best striker, perhaps second. And if Harry Kane wants to be a number 10, stroke number 8, who just scores goals, like Frank Lampard, but not Frank Lampard, is he your best out and out number 9? Am I being blasphemous here? Slightly. I like playing with people that love Harry Kane. I'm playing. But no, Harry Kane will start. But then he'll want to drop deep into the number 10 areas, which is what kind of gives Tuchel a kind of confusion with, the Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Eze, Morgan Rogers conundrum. Because, like, Kane is going to take your space in many instances. So who's running beyond? That's Saka, that's maybe Rashford, depending. I guess, Rashford will be the kind of break glass in case of emergency player, won't he? He'll take Kane, he'll take Watkins, and then if Kane gets injured and Watkins isn't playing well, you'll play Rashford at number 9 and then play Foden wide with Saka. Yeah, so I don't think Welbeck is going to the World Cup. But if all things in a fair world, if I ruled the world, I didn't mean to sing. I'm not have hope. But if Danny Welbeck would go to the World Cup, either for England or Ghana. But I think the Ghana ship has sailed, unfortunately. In any event, this has been Talking Tactics Daily. Hopefully nobody stayed long enough to hear me butcher a Nas song. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. Follow the actual podcast where we'll get into all of this and more with myself. Definitely have hope. And perhaps Carl Anka will want to discuss his team being knocked out of the FA Cup by Seagulls. See you tomorrow, I think. Peace.